KSI versus Jake Paul has been in the making for over 6 years since KSI's iconic call out of the Paul brothers. And here we are, the year is 2024 and these guys are still fighting, just not each other. To be honest, all hope is lost for this fight and it's just never gonna happen. And in this video, I'm gonna be going over why. As I mentioned, so many years of build-up and so many different things have transpired since that call out. KSI fought Logan Paul in 2018 and 2019, pretty much like 5 years ago at this point. Since then, Jake Paul just kept fighting. He hasn't stopped. He's taken boxing pretty seriously. Fair to say the most out of any other guy who has come from YouTube boxing. Up there with, of course, KSI, who said he's going to be returning this year. Both guys just kept on taking fights with both guys in each other's sights, with people assuming that they were of course on course to fight each other one day. Jake Paul fighting MMA legends like Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, then Nate Diaz. While KSI came back and introduced the world to YouTube boxing, he had those 2 fights in one night and then knocked out FaZe Temper, fought Joe Fournier to a controversial elbow knockout. But overall, both guys were just building and building and building, and this fight was inevitable. Last year, both guys fought a common opponent, which is crazy that they didn't fight each other, and they both fought Tommy Fury, and what do you know, they both lost to him. Both by some relatively close, kind of controversial decisions. Last year, they were both undefeated. They were both on a crash course to fight each other. Everyone said this fight is going to happen in 2023, and it just never transpired, and it looks like we're not even close to it happening. Since KSI last fought Tommy Fury, Jake Paul has really just been going the traditional boxing route until he announced that he's going to be fighting Mike Tyson, which I'll get to in a minute. But his last 2 fights were against these journeyman pro boxers who he just wiped the floor with in 1 round, both of them. Not much you can really take away from that, and they were just really builder fights, easy fights if we're being honest. Which, to be fair, most fighters do fight that kind of opposition in the beginning of their careers. But the key takeaway in those fights is that Jake Paul has found his weight class, 200 pounds, the cruiserweight limit. He's been saying for years that he wants to become a world champion. Now, do I see that being likely? Not at all. Because for starting boxing in your 20s and to make it to that level of the sport, fighting that kind of opposition, guys who have been into the Olympics, the amateurs, it's just going to be too hard to match that muscle memory. But regardless, he found his weight class and that's where he's going to be campaigning at, 200 pounds. Before then, he was fighting at catch weights, 190 and then 185 pounds, which he said initially he was going to keep on going down until eventually he found his weight class in 175, but seems like that's not the case anymore. It seems like he had a pretty bad weight cut for his fight against Tommy Fury, and there he kind of realized he probably shouldn't go anywhere under 180. So instead, he's trying to build that mass, build that muscle, bulk up, and go to 200 instead. And has now since announced that he is fighting Mike Tyson, a heavyweight fight with Jake Paul looking massive. He is bigger than he's ever been in his life. We've seen him at the photo shoots for the Mike Tyson fight. The shoulders on him, he is now wide and has been bulking up. He even looked bigger than Mike Tyson himself in the face-off, which is crazy because Mike Tyson was a natural heavyweight and fought at heavyweight his whole career, reportedly walking around right now at around 230 plus pounds. But last year, Jake was fighting at 185, fighting Tommy Fury and Nate Diaz at that weight class, now moving up to heavyweight. Now, while this is only one hurdle in the way of making this fight, it is probably the biggest one. The weight discrepancy here between KSI and Jake Paul. Right now, KSI is walking around at 200 pounds, which is Jake Paul's fighting weight. He probably walks around 220, 215 in fight camp. Besides this one where he's moving up to heavyweight, while KSI is walking around at that outside of camp. He's not even in training right now.
What weight is he weighing right now?
You know, he's in the region of 200 pounds.
Oh, wow, okay. Really,
yeah, he's in the region of 200 pounds, yeah.
Okay.
Where his natural fighting weight would probably be at 168 to 175 pounds. KSI would have to give up a lot of ground for this fight because I don't think Jake Paul is coming in under 195 in the future. He's been bulking up. He's been trying to settle into that cruiserweight limit of 200 pounds, now even getting bigger for the Mike Tyson fight. If it did happen, it would have to be at a catch weight where Jake Paul cannot even make the same weight right now that he was able to make last year, 185. KSI and Jake Paul both weighed in against Tommy Fury at 183, but again, since then, Jake has only gotten bigger. And that was KSI bigger than he should have been, probably walking around at like 190 pounds. The only saving grace in this whole thing is that it seems like KSI is trying to bulk up and put on some weight, put on some mass.
Has he lost all the weight he put on?
No, we put on weight for a reason. Like we've been actively trying to put on weight.
Keeping in mind, when he fought Logan Paul, he bulked up massively, ironically to cruiserweight, the 200-pound limit, but only came in at 193 pounds, which obviously has since slimmed down since then, but I mean, you never know. But KSI did say before the Tommy Fury fight that he felt better at that weight than he ever felt before, and that was him moving up, so maybe it could happen again.
Like, what, I normally fight 175, 180. Since I've moved up in weight, it's nothing. The speed's still there. The power has increased Oh my God, bro. Legit, bro. I need to fight more at this weight. It's great. Bro, like, I'm just hitting people and they're staying hit, so it's nice. It's nice.
So overall, the entire weight discrepancy is just so massive and such a big glaring issue with that fight. And then not to mention what held up the fight last year, the negotiations. What platform is the fight going to be on? What fighters are going to be on it? Is it going to be Misfits? Is it going to be Most Valuable Promotions? How's it going to work? How's the card going to pan out? Does Jake Paul want to have people like Amanda Serrano, Ashton Silva on there? Does KSI want to have whoever on the card? These guys are in such different lanes right now, with KSI's promotion really prioritizing that YouTube boxing, crossover boxing, building these influencers, and Jake Paul's being to sign world champions and future prospects in the sport of boxing. Jake Paul is now fighting on Netflix and sounds like he may continue fighting there. So is it going to be on Netflix? Is it going to be on DAZN? Misfits has a long-term deal with DAZN. Now even more hurdles for making this fight, and at the end of the day, both guys have to want it and be up for it. And in the last year plus, it just hasn't looked like these guys want to fight each other and they're their #1 priority anymore. When KSI came back to boxing in 2022, he let it be known he wants to fight Jake Paul. That's his end goal. That's exactly who he wants to beat and defeat and end.
I got an end goal, and that is Jake Paul, ladies and gentlemen. Best believe I will get past every single opponent. And then when I get to him, he's getting flatlined, he's getting destroyed, and my legacy will live on forever.
But since the Jake lost to Tommy, it feels like that direction is kind of swayed, even though he still takes shots at Jake. Jake still takes shots at him. They're not really on a crash course to fight each other anymore. At this point, I feel like KSI's end goal is just to put on big fights and keep on building Misfits Boxing, which kind of the same thing for Jake Paul. His goal is to keep building his promotion, and there's no other way to explain it than they're just on different paths. The fight doesn't really align right now. Their weights don't align. The negotiations don't align. It just seems like this is a recipe for disaster. This is like worse than Mayweather versus Pacquiao, which is infamously known for being a fight in pro boxing, which was delayed for so many years. So many hurdles, so many issues until the point where the fight finally happened and it was kind of mid. But I mean, at least eventually that one got done. For this, I just don't see it happening. Time and time again, we hear rumblings, rumors, theories that this is going to happen, but it just doesn't seem near. And if I'm being honest, the interest is definitely fading. People are not as excited to see this fight or are even anticipating it because it just seems so far away. And just how many years the back and forth has been dragged on. A lot of people are rightly sick of it. I know I am. I know a lot of you guys are watching this. I think this fight is just cursed, which is a shame because that would have been the pinnacle of YouTube boxing, and now it's just left as a what if. What if that fight happened? What would happen? How big would it have been after all these years of buildup, of trash talk? It just feels like we're just bound to never find out the answer. Regardless, they're going to keep on going with their boxing careers. KSI is going to come back, and Jake Paul with his upcoming fight against Mike Tyson. Check out this video right here to see my breakdown on it.